Hey everybody, welcome to the Film Schmucks. I'm Matt, this is Trey, and of course we got Sterling down below. Today, it's what we've all been waiting for. Well, it's just me because I've had this on my list to watch for a while, but we watched Django Unchained, which is basically Quentin Tarantino's Western. I mean, this is his homage to Western movies, basically, right?
Yeah, I would say
Yes.
so.
So, I mean, let's dive right into it.
Yeah. Oh man. I guess I'll go. A very interesting movie. It was very difficult for me to watch it at a lot of points in the movie because of the material, if you to put it lightly. And um, but overall, a very good film. As we said with the Master, with Phoenix and R.I.P. the Penguin, exceptional acting. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Sorry. Um, the acting was superb. I mean, I that's the only thing I couldn't. The obviously Christoph Waltz, you know, amazing, and
Uh,
DiCaprio. I mean, those two stole the show. I mean, Jamie Foxx was good, and I thought Samuel L. Jackson was over the top. But that's just me. But those two, I couldn't. They were amazing. Like there's the reason why a two-time Academy Award winner and should it be two or three-time Academy Award winner with DiCaprio. I mean, they are consummate professionals. I told you guys before we watched this, I was waiting for that scene. I didn't know the context, but I was waiting for the scene where he literally does cut his hand when he slaps the table in the glass, and it
yep.
just kept on rolling. Like I was waiting for that scene, and it lived up to it. Uh, Amazing. I mean, just that scene alone, those the scenes with DiCaprio, all of them were incredible. Um, but overall, the movie was enjoyable. We can go to the ending at the end, but I enjoyed the ending obviously, and because I like a movie that ends good or well. That's entertaining and deservedly so. But yeah, overall, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Yeah, I just to sum it up in simple terms, I think it was a very, very good movie. I think it was definitely kind of the full package. It did very serious things, but it also did really funny things and entertaining things, and it was shot beautifully. The writing was great. Performances through the writing was great. So I don't know if it's my favorite Tarantino film, but I think as a full package, it's probably the most well-rounded film that he's made, and that's a testament to how good of a filmmaker he is, considering the other films he's made. So, Matt, this is the first time you've seen it. I'm kind of curious what were your
Yeah,
initial thoughts of it?
I'll say, and maybe it's just because I watched it freshly. It's like maybe it's because it's just the most recent that I've watched. But I think I can say fairly easily that this might be my favorite Tarantino movie.
I agree. I agree.
I think that, like you said, it's to me, Tarantino is an anomaly in the space of filmmaking, in the sense of he does a lot of stuff that normally Oscar people don't like, that normally the Academy doesn't like, and for some reason he gets away with it. He does a lot of like over the top stuff, and he does like gratuitous violence, for instance, that's like, intentionally like over the top. And
Yeah,
it's weird to me that he just seems to be the one guy that like has can get away with that. And maybe it's because, I mean, look, he obviously is a genius filmmaker too. And I think this was the perfect showcase of he's great at writing. He can write a great story, and he can write great dialogue. And sometimes you get a lot of movies with him where it's too much dialogue or whatever. And then you have movies like Kill Bill that are over the top crazy action. And I think Django to me was just the perfect, like if you wanted to show someone a movie that just perfectly showed all of Tarantino's strengths, I think Django, I haven't seen all of Tarantino's movies, so I'm sure there might be a better example, but so far Django's the one where it's like, it was just the perfect mix of what makes Tarantino great. As far as you had some over the top action and some gratuitous violence and all of that, but you also had just really great like dialogue and writing and comedy. I think Tarantino is actually good at writing hilarious scenes. And I mean, I have to say this. I don't think I've laughed so hard at a movie in a little while than the scene with the when they're trying to when they all leave that like that house. I don't know the guy what the guy's name
plantation.
is. The plantation.
Big
Johnson's.
The
Big
bags.
Daddy.
No,
Yeah.
with all the bags.
That was hilarious.
It
The
could
origin
yes.
of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. And the fact that I was just constantly laughing, and the scene almost, I'm sure for some people that scene could have went too long. But to me, it just kept getting funnier, and the way they delivered the lines, and for some reason, Jonah Hill's just there as a character, you know.
Yeah. I just love how they keep saying, we can't see out of these holes. Like,
Yeah.
What the fuck? And then the guy's like, my wife spent so much time.
They're like rationalizing it, you know. It's like,
we appreciate your wife, but can for next time do a little better. It reminded me. There's a movie it reminded me of. I can't remember, but it also reminded me of the type of comedy of like Sunny in Philadelphia.
yeah,
Like that kind of.
yeah,
But I agree. Because it caught me off guard at first.
yeah,
And Don Johnson was great because we just watched him in Knives Out, and
exactly.
yeah, they were. It just kept on going, but it was still funny. Like they kept it going, but it just was kept on being really funny, and I laughed out loud a lot with that one.
Right? Yeah, me and Christy were really laughing, and the thing is, most of the movie there actually were just a lot of like funny moments. There were moments that were like clever or cute that just kind of make you smile, you know? Like, and I think Christoph Waltz is the core of that. His character was so like delightful is the best word I can think of. Like, go ahead.
His first scene where he kills the sheriff, and you're like, wait, what? Why did he kill him?
That whole thing was so good.
And the resolution that, oh wait, he was a wanted criminal. But I love how, I mean, obviously his prop of the gun coming out of his sleeve was so cool. But it just, there was something so shocking about that when he just kills the sheriff. It kind of made me laugh a little bit because it's like, this. I did not expect him to just, cap this dude.
That was really unexpected.
But it was one of those things where you didn't know where that scene was going to go because I'm like, how are they going to get out of this? Sorry, just wanted to add that to that.
No, yeah, for sure. That was the whole thing about it because you're like right off the bat, you're like, oh, are they gonna have to shoot their way out of town? And you're like, what is up with this character? Like he's so nutty. Like what's going on? And the resolution of it, just the moment when they're all standing there outside, you know, and he just has this. He just makes it work really well. And the way his lines were all very clever, and he's just a great performance. He was my favorite character of the movie, and I don't know if I could say favorite performance because it was a great performance for the character. Leonardo DiCaprio was such a intense character that the acting was just really superb there. Jamie Foxx is great. He's so talented. He's great in everything. He doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie. You know, he does a lot with his looks, and then some of the lines that he does have are some of the standout lines in the movie are lines that he says, you know, and his great moment to me obviously is when he and you know, I guess we're going to end up getting into spoils at some point because there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie, but that right before, you know, when he's waiting after the funeral for everyone to get back. Yeah. And that is just, I mean, that stands out. That to me, that is like the Unforgiven moment of Clint Eastwood in the bar. It was just like, this is like, we're just seeing this badass, you know, gunslinger at his best.
Yeah, the way he toys with all of them. And, he has some good one-liners. Like, I love his line, "I like the way you die, boy." Yeah. I thought that was so cold, and it was a good comeback.
He's cool. He's just cool. And then the fact that they remix that later when there's the big shootout in the house, and they like, it's like there's like a rap track playing and they remix the line into it where he says, "I like the way you die, boy." And he's those poor bastards getting shot on the ground. I mean, that was almost just like too much. It was almost too much when they just kept accidentally shooting the people on the ground. And it was the gore in this movie. Every single time someone gets shot, it looks like someone like throws a bucket of blood up into the air.
How bad were their shots that they kept on doing that too? Like, darn it! Like, oh man, wow.
Yeah. At that point when Django's just like kind of hiding behind that body of that guy, and it just keeps getting shot.
That's fine, but they kept on shooting the bodies while he was behind the wall. And they kept on shooting the guy that was like 2 feet from him.
Yeah, that guy. He's like screaming in pain. Yeah.
He's still hitting this guy.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say that that's the thing that impresses me about most of Tarantino's films is that, like, even in the case of Kill Bill, that's very kind of cartoonish violence as far as the amount of blood, but there's something so stylistic about it that he gets away with it. It doesn't feel silly. There is a silly aspect to it, but it's like you're kind of like in the moment. And when the gore happens, it's like, oh shit, like this is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Even if you were trying to look at it in a pessimistic way, it's kind of hard because if you were trying to go, well, this is so stupid or silly, it's like it looks so good, like the shots and the music and the way he combines everything, that it doesn't matter by the end of it because you're just sucked into the moment and you just can't argue about it. And that's the thing. There's over-the-top moments in the movie with action and stuff, but there's a lot of scenes in this movie that, I mean, it's interesting seeing Tarantino because you can recognize a Tarantino movie kind of, but in this movie, compared to like maybe Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs or something, there was a lot of interesting like editing and just kind of direction choices that were like, there was a lot of moments where Django would be imagining Broomhilda. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way they kind of cut those into the movie, and it would actually kind of affect you on like some subconscious level. It would show these shots where she's in the sun in a dress and he thinks he sees her. And it was really good at just giving you a little jab of emotion in these little moments.
Yeah.
And it works because, the by the time when you're really, on board with hoping this plan goes well. Like and all those moments when they're talking shit about Broomhilda, in whatever different way. And there's a couple of different times where Django kind of reaches for his gun and you're kind of with him. Like you're like as tense, you're like uncomfortable, but you're also like, don't pull the gun out, dude, because you're going to ruin the whole thing, So it was really tense on a lot of scenes. And that's not even to mention the like whipping and all the parts that are hard, really the dogs and everything. Like there's a lot of hard to watch stuff in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, and Trey, you kind of alluded to it, that there's definitely some very uncomfortable scenes to watch, to say the least. That's putting it mildly. And that's kind of a nitpick of mine a little bit, like not as far as the treatment, but like obviously it's during the 1800s and they're trying to kind of put you in that environment, but I did feel like they said the N-word a little too much in this movie. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I think it was used a little bit too liberally on Tarantino's side of the writing the script. So I mean, what do you think about that, Trey? Like that's kind of how I felt.
I totally agree. Yeah, that they went a little too far with that, and I'm not sure when this was filmed and how many years ago, and because the landscape changes every 5 years, I would say with anything in this world, but it was uncomfortable. But I don't know. They got these actors to do it. I mean, like with like DiCaprio and another guy that was that got shot at the end. That was like one of the like security guard guys. That's actually pretty famous. I forgot the character's name or the actor, but he said it all the time. But yeah, they did way too much. But for me, it was more like the whipping and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that they portrayed from that time era. That was like, ooh, that's Tarantino. Like he pushes the bar, he sets his own bar and he he goes a little past it sometimes, but hey,
Yeah.
it's I
Yeah.
agree though.
I mean,
I totally agree with that.
I can agree that like I think I mean the language didn't bother me in the movie. That I mean it wasn't the word, it wasn't the N word. A lot of times the stuff that was uncomfortable was just with them talking about how they treat the people. That was what, even
Oh yeah.
just the language and the way they're so dismissive and stuff of the slaves. That was hard to hear. The word itself wasn't that bothersome, but I do agree it was like I think it would. I mean, I think that it's fine, that the characters would use the word, but there were times where it was like, I mean, sometimes you'd be watching a scene and it's like every sentence, like it did seem like okay, this was probably unnecessary. I don't think it hurt the movie, but I do think that it was unnecessary, and you could avoid, people who were more bothered by that. You could have just avoided that criticism by not using it so much, and it does seem like unnecessary, that it was
Yeah.
that much. So I agree on that
What?
level. Um,
Yeah. Well, and also what you touched on about how they were treated, the slaves. I mean, I can think of two scenes that really made me feel uncomfortable, and it's not because the filmmaking was bad.
yeah.
It's just because the way things were happening. The first time you meet DiCaprio's character, and he's watching two guys basically kill each
That
other
was that. Yeah, that was probably the
in a wrestling
hardest,
match. It's like,
most
what the
uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
how
like what is
casual
going
everyone
on?
is about it.
How casual they are, and like it's a game to them. And then the second scene I can think of is when DiCaprio, talks to the runaway, and he gets the dogs to feed on him. Um, I mean that it just the way he was talking to him like he was like a child, that
Yeah,
that really that bothered me a lot.
and
So
I got to give props to that actor who played the runaway, because he had such an emotional performance when and it's like when he's just like, I just can't do it anymore, and he's just at the lowest bottom that he possibly could be at, and he's like, I just can't fight anymore. And the way Leonardo just, I mean, yeah, it's like you just see his character exactly who this guy is in that moment, but it's so like just heartbreaking watching that slave crawl out of the tree and then just weeping on the ground. It's like,
yeah,
oof. And that's the interesting thing. I think that's why where this movie succeeds really well is there's over the top moments in this movie that are so crazy. And then when you watch a moment like that, when Leo's talking to this runaway slave, it's crazy that it's the same movie, that can have like this crazy performance that's super emotional. And then you can also just have like a really goofy, shootout that's really fun to watch. So I think that's why Tarantino's great.
So I do need to give props to Tarantino though, because he could have done this as well. I mean, like a lot of movies. The thing that for me, for any movie that ever does it, I think there's no need for it, is showing. Uh, they alluded to it, like what people did to what's her name, Mafilda? What's her name?
Broomhilda.
Broomhilda. Like the everybody had their turn with her kind of thing. Like he didn't show it.
Yeah.
Like movies, when movies show that, I almost tap out. I'm like, that's just too far. That's why with Game of Thrones I never really watched, because I've heard that they show a lot of that. I'm like, no, I'm out. Like
Yeah.
there's no need for it. Like you can like show like them going to the room or whatever, fine. But that to me, that's too far. Like for
Yeah,
me
I don't
personally,
like it
like
either, and I felt the same way. I was almost, there were certain scenes and certain times in the movie where I was worried. I was like, the way they've
hmm
treated every aspect of this movie, I really hope that we're not going
hmm
to see any like slave rape or
yep,
anything. And the fact that we
yeah,
didn't was because that probably would have
yeah,
been the one step too far where I'd be like,
yeah,
yeah,
okay, that's too much, and. But that's to
yeah.
each his own in a way. I get that like there are some people who can't watch violent stuff, who really can't watch like some of the whipping in this movie, for instance,
hmm
or someone getting their eyes gouged out. And so I might be on the other end of that where I have a high tolerance for watching fake violence, but like rapey stuff is just too far. I can't do it. But I
Yep.
agree. I think that
Same
that's a
here.
good point.
Yeah,
yeah.
props to him for not doing that, or feeling the
Um,
need to do it.
I was gonna say another thing that impresses me about Tarantino is that, especially for a movie like this that is almost 3 hours, there's a lot of dialogue scenes, and in a worse writer, you would have some pacing issues, some major pacing issues.
Mhm.
But because the dialogue for the most part is really interesting and engaging, it helps. It doesn't feel like the movie overstays its welcome. I think the pacing doesn't feel like it drags on that much because of the dialogue, because of how good it is. And so that kind of impresses me a lot. That even though there's not like a whole lot of action per se, it's all kind of sprinkled out through the movie.
Yeah.
But all between that, there's all these impressive dialogue heavy scenes, and so that definitely gives me a lot of respect for Tarantino as far as how good he is at his craft.
Yeah. I think the relationship between I'm sorry I'm forgetting, but Schultz, Dr. Schultz. So the relationship between Schultz and Django was also just so touching and such an interesting, they're both interesting characters, and I think that helps it because there are slower moments in the movie with those two characters that,
Yeah.
we watched Unforgiven, and there was moments where we were like, okay, this is, we're kind of bored or whatever. I didn't feel bored at any moment because I was always interested in what the characters were doing or saying, which I thought was like a testament to it. So,
Well, just his progression, as far as Schultz kind of teaching Django, how to be a bounty hunter,
yeah.
especially that scene where it's his first kill, and he's hesitant because he doesn't want to kill the father in front of his son. And I thought that was a really good moment, and it was kind of funny too because, by the end of it, Schultz is like, just get it done, just shoot him, and let's be done with it, basically. So,
Yeah.
and it was a reading lesson too, which was kind of cool.
That was very touching. The reading, helping him read.
Yeah. But, yeah. Trey, do you want to say something?
No.
No.
No. I go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
You can go.
Well, I was gonna add a nitpick because we haven't gotten our nitpicks yet.
I got a few nitpicks of my own, friend.
Yeah. For me, other than okay, so I thought I was only gonna have one, and then the second to last big action scene where he has to surrender happens, and anyway, I'll go to the first one. When Samuel L. Jackson's character, which was hilarious when we first meet him, and he comes out and doesn't talk like he's a slave, like he's like, "What is this guy doing? What are you letting him do this for?" Like oh my gosh, and DiCaprio's character lets him do it, and then he finally gets a hold of like, "Hey, get what I'm saying," But that was a great intro for that character. But for me, I thought it was very annoying and not. I mean, I say it a lot, like unrealistic. When they show him like noticing stuff with the characters with Jamie Foxx and the girl and everything. I'm like, but when he brings in DiCaprio's character and like lays everything out, like they're playing you like a fiddle. That is like really that character like back then would notice every single detail like that. I'm like, they could have done a way better job of that being leaked into the character, like knowing like, oh, these guys know this girl. Then instead of this character being like a genius, oh, they're playing you like a fiddle.
Yeah.
He's tricking you to do this. Like I'm like, really? You would know that they're like, you would know that. Like,
Yeah.
I just thought that was way, I'll say it, unrealistic. Like a couple points, like, hey, I noticed they look like they know her, and like then they could have investigated. They could have been found out that way.
That's what I think too. I think because he added like a lot of conjecture to it. It's like all he knew was that I think she knows this guy, and that was literally all he knew. But and he filled in all the stuff. I think they're doing this and that and this and that, and it's like maybe he could have gotten a couple more clues, or he should have said to Leo like, "Hey, be careful here, something fishy's going on," and then Leo finds out. I don't think it's not a massive deal, but I totally, because they could have done that, or he could have found out any other way. But I agree that it was a little like, but maybe I don't know. I think they were trying to show the loyalty of the character.
Yeah, and I think the one detail that he shared with Can was his name Candy, by the way? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Can't
It was
just
Candy.
his name.
something Candy,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
John Candy.
Leo. Yeah. He. I think the one detail that Samuel Jackson gave that kind of sold him was the fact that Dr. Scholl's didn't pay any money up front. You know what I
Mm.
mean? I think that's kind of what,
It's a business deal.
obviously it's kind of a stretch, and probably in real life you would have had more investigation, but I think that detail alone for what the story was trying to tell
Yeah.
Well,
kind of got
yeah,
me over the
yeah.
so
I mean, you're right. He look. That was a good point. I understand Leo's side, but I think, and I
yeah.
think Trey, this is what Trey's saying, and will agree with me. It's more just like, well, how did that guy, that servant guy, so quickly think of that? Like, oh, he didn't give the money
Yeah,
up front either. And I think this guy knows that girl, and this and
sure.
that, and this guy speaks German.
Yeah,
I don't know why I
exactly.
added that detail, but
Which I could be misinterpreting it, but Samuel Jackson's character, he's kind of a caricature of is it TOS violation if I say you Uncle, you know what I
Uncle,
mean?
yeah, Uncle Tom. I don't know, but I would just say it. I don't think
Yeah.
it's,
Huh?
but yeah, he's
What?
like he is
Okay.
like the embodiment of that phrase in a movie, basically.
Yeah.
Of what? What phrase?
And Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah.
So
I'm out of
basically
loop, I guess.
he's kind of a self-hating black slave, and he's very subservient to his white owner. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what a caricature of
Yeah,
Uncle
to
Tom
to the
is.
point of him
Oh,
treating
okay, I got
other
it. I
black
got it.
people terribly,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
he
Being racist
Christie
and
made
stuff.
a point that earlier in the movie there's some conversation. I'm gonna paraphrase this horribly because she repeated it, but like there's some conversation earlier where someone mentioned something about a black slaver, and then Django says the only thing worse than a black slaver is like the head servant of a plantation or something like that. Like they basically, and then
Oh.
later one of the
Okay.
he's probably the most despicable character in the movie, I guess, other than maybe
Oh,
Leo.
oh.
He really is the most
Yeah.
like the worst as far as
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's why even though it definitely gets over the top at times, no doubt. And there are
Yeah.
times I definitely got annoyed because it's like, can you stop being so freaking nosy? Like,
yeah.
and why do you hate black people so much? It's like, God damn it! It's
He
like,
was very self-serving because they talk about the skull that was brought out? Wasn't it his dad?
It
Right?
was.
Or
It might have
I
been.
wasn't
I
that like
tuned out a little
'cause
on that part. I remember I didn't hear the
I don't
first
know.
part of it.
it was the
Maybe I
servant.
assume.
It was the servant before him. I don't know if that
Yeah.
was his dad.
Okay. Maybe it wasn't related. Okay. Because it was a servant of his dad and his grandpa, whatever.
Yeah.
So my point being is like I think he was very self-serving. Maybe he learned that like to survive, I have to adapt and do this, and be above the people around me. Like I
Yeah.
can see that for that character, but like you said, yeah, it was way over the top for that for Samuel Jackson's character.
And by the way, that scene with the skull, that was uncomfortable too because there was so much ignorant shit being said by
Yeah.
Leonardo's character about this, the skull and what's like in the brain of a black
Yeah,
person.
this side is servitude, and this side is creativity or whatever it is, and I'm like, what? But the sad part is that's all based on like actual like just
I
super
know.
ignorant beliefs that people
Eugenics,
did. Yeah,
I think.
yeah, but it's so pseudo. It's like it's like it's like just some of the dumbest like logic you can have is like you see these dimples on the inside of the skull here. It's like as soon as he says that, you're like, this dumb motherfucker. But he was making some good points.
I don't know.
Sorry,
I don't know the
cut that out.
brain. I don't know the brain. Like don't look at me, guys, because I don't know the brain or what's in it. You know
Well,
what side's what. So don't ask me.
Yeah, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I'm telling you what Leo was saying was bullshit. That's all I have to say. But yeah.
Well, yeah. How would they know that back then? So I agree. Like, but
Yeah.
maybe that is something they thought.
Yeah.
You know. So maybe that is something true.
It's a product of its time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So going into that scene, so staying in that scene, when he finds out about them wanting the girl, did I miss something, or they were going to pay $12,000 for the fighter,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then they were going to pay a little more for the girl. Essentially, they were going to make a deal with for the girl too. Was this a misstep in the writing? Because they brought her out, laid her out. He yells, does his acting, bloody hand and all. Which we'll talk about him smearing his own blood on her face. I mean, I think maybe that they
That was
actually
a
added
different
fake
shot.
blood later.
I think that was a
Yeah, so I
different
think they
shot.
added. Yeah, okay. Anyway,
To God, I hope.
yeah, I know, me too. Because I'm like, oh, that's some crazy method. You're
That's,
diving into your character
yeah,
kind of
this
shit.
is some
Um,
Joker kind of
yeah, yeah,
what's his name? Jared Leto stuff.
yeah, oh yeah. So he got $12,000 for Bafilda, right? That's her name?
Broomhilda.
Broomhilda. He got $12,000. Like, you said you wanted to pay $12,000, and he's like, take it or leave it. Okay, they say deal, right? They pass over the $12,000. Are we still on the same page here, guys?
Well, there's one thing I think there is he mentioned paying $12,000 originally when they talked before Leo went into the room to talk to the servant guy. He says that Django says 9,000. He said because they're not getting his best fighter. He's giving him one of the other fighters. So he says 9,000. That's the only thing I wanted to add in. I don't know if it makes a difference with what you're saying, but the offer on the table was 9,000 for.
But immediately they changed it back to 12 because Leonardo said, "Hey, you can't. You're the one that came to me.
Yeah,
you're the one that made
maybe
the offer."
All right.
So they changed it back to 12. That's what I got from it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember what you said. But immediately he's like, "Hey, you said 12,000."
I think you're right.
Even if that's the case, they pay 12,000 for the girl, but then they just make a deal for him paying 12,000. So would he want 24,000 for the fighter? And I thought it was very confusing that give me 12,000, you can have the girl, but didn't you just make a deal for the fighter too? So wouldn't you want all? Yes. Wouldn't you want all his money then? Or you're in a position, hey, I want all your money.
Well, I think
I thought it was stupid. I thought it was stupid of Leo's character to just take the 12 grand and give them girl.
I think you're right, except that they did mention that Broomhilda was barely worth a couple $100. So he is already making out on the deal by just selling her off. But here,
I get it.
I see what you're saying, though. He was in a power position where he could have forced him to basically do anything.
He didn't get. I mean, he kept his prize fighter though. That's what I'm saying. Like he didn't lose his prize fighter. He gained $12,000.
No, I know. I'm saying that why didn't he get the 12,000 plus more? That's because Matt was just saying he was in a power position. I thought it was dumb for the character to say because they took half the money, which was 12,000, and threw the rest back and gave it back. Like you're in a power position. Like that character is dumb for not asking for more. Like I thought that was.
Well,
I thought I was missing something, so I got the whole picture that.
I got a nitpick kind of coming off of this point you're making a little bit. It's a potential nitpick because I watched this movie in 2 halves because
me too,
it was 3 hours long. So I watched it up to the point where the slave tried to run away and Leo sics the dogs on him, and then as it got into the montage of them walking to the plantation, I paused it, started it back up the next day. I'm trying to remember if I'm missing something crucial here, but I just didn't understand why they didn't just go buy Broomhilda in the first place. I couldn't remember why they had to come up with the plan of buying the fighter. Was it because they would have never gotten that far?
Christoph Waltz said, "Hey, he made an analogy. I forgot what the analogy was, but he made an analogy about
farm, I think, right?
Yeah. Why buy the cow if you got to start big to go back to low? We have to get a reason to get into the house.
Right, that makes sense. Because why would he even make deals with them for something?
It's worth she wasn't worth anything. That was the thing. Like, hey, because she's not worth anything, we need another reason to bring her into the deal.
and they don't want to give up their hand. Like,
Yeah.
they don't want to give up their intention. So
Because
they
then
just
Leo
want to,
could just kill her or whatever. He could do whatever sick
yeah.
thing he wants to do.
Well,
Yep.
but then it would be suspicious of like, well, wait, we have, Dr. Schultz, and then we have this black guy, and they're coming for this girl, but apparently they don't have any connection. But like, why are they wanting to buy her? It would have raised so many questions. And the fact that they were pretending to be, buyers of Mandigo fighters or whatever, that was a good cover story, and the ridiculous offer, like $12,000 is like that's over $100,000, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
a
crazy.
lot of money.
I thought 12.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, that's a large amount, now,
Today.
let alone back then.
yeah,
But I get all of my knowledge on Western economics from playing Red Dead Redemption 2, so probably not the best person to ask.
I mean, it's not the worst place to get your history. So,
Oh boy.
but anyway, I wanted to say I think the music too was actually pretty good for the most part.
Oh yeah,
A lot of it's kind of a mixture of like kind of classic Western music, but then also some kind of contemporary music, more kind of modern music that was, usually that's kind of hit or miss, but in this case, I think it was implemented really well. And I think even like the opening song, the Django theme.
yeah, where they did it like a
there's something-
classic ballad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it felt like it's watching like a '70s Western type
yeah,
thing.
yeah, that was cool. And even the way even the font and everything on the credits were. I mean, I didn't actually know that when I was watching this movie. I don't know. I didn't know much about this movie. I don't even think I'd seen a trailer or anything. So I kind of knew about it, but that opening sets in and it's just like you get a classic ballad theme of like Django, and then you have like these credits, and they also even do a lot of like 70s style editing. I mean, I know this is just Tarantino, but they do a lot of whip zooms. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it just zooms in real quick. And it's like that's another one of those things that somehow it works. It's a very serious movie at times, and you have this really goofy thing, and it just works really well. So,
yeah. What else can we talk about?
Well, I just want to say, I mean, I guess we can. I was going to say Django is just, to me, just like now up there as just a badass, like when I think of just iconic badass characters. And I got to say, this movie was fun. That's the thing about it that's weird. It was really a fun movie. And like a lot of it was like, sometimes you feel like you're watching like a buddy kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like I love, like there's silly parts that just work. When Django gets to pick his own outfit out and he basically looks like Austin Powers. He just has like the classic. Yeah. So Django, I just want to say Django was such a cool figure. And honestly, I fell in love with him and the whole story and the character. And whenever he tells the story of the old Broomhilda, and you kind of know that that's going to come to some sort of fruition in the movie, that when he's telling the classic German tale, and then, and man, when they get him at the end, like when everyone's dead and they actually get him, I literally didn't know what was going to happen. So him tricking Australian Tarantino into letting it like into him, and then he just instantly kills him.
What a great death! Just explodes with the dynamite.
Yeah. That threw me. That did throw me off at first. I was really confused. I was like, "What is up with his voice?" Until I realized they were supposed to be like two of them were Australian. I was like, "That was such a weird choice." I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe Tarantino just really loves doing an Australian accent, and he's like, let's do it."
Yeah, it was a weird choice. I was gonna say, even though Jamie Foxx's performance isn't my favorite in this movie, he still nails the role that he's given as being kind of a stoic badass.
Yeah.
And like, I need to watch more of his movies because like I recently watched another movie of his called Just Mercy with Michael B. Jordan, and like the amount of variety he has in his performances, and then of course he played Ray Charles and Ray.
Yeah. What's that movie with him and
he won an Oscar, right?
Yeah.
What's the movie with him and Robert Downey Jr. that people just rave about? You son of a bitch. No. Wait, he
What?
was in
Robert-
that. You're right. He was in Due Date.
Yeah.
I thought you were goofing. I thought you were doing a joke. I didn't know why you were looking at me like
I thought
that.
you were talking about that.
No.
Is
There's
that
like
the
an
movie?
no. That's not the. There's an Oscar nominated like big film that him and let me see if I can find it real quick. But
I
it
have
was
no
some
idea,
movie.
then.
It had The Pianist. I think that's what it's called. The Pianist.
Oh yes,
That was one, and
yes.
that was like a big one that people talked about him having a great performance in.
Yeah, yep. That's funny.
No,
I
but yeah,
forgot about that movie.
he just impresses me. So I need to watch more of his work.
Yeah, I mean, he really is like a Renaissance man in the fact of like he's hilarious. He's funny. He can do stand up comedy. He does sketch comedy. He's an Oscar nominated actor and a Grammy nominated. Well, I don't know if he ever been Grammy nominated, but he also makes music, and he can sing. You know, I mean, the guy's talented and dance. Maybe I got a crush on him. Is that what you want me to say? I'll say it. All right.
What, dude? He's a player, no doubt. I mean, he's a baller in that movie, especially by the end when he's wearing that nice like burgundy like
Yeah.
coat or whatever.
Yes.
And he just comes in all strolling and ready to kill everyone. By the way, okay, this is kind of a nitpick of mine, but it was funny when he shot the woman, and you could totally tell that she's being pulled from a wire.
Yeah, it was weird because it was sort of intentional, but that was the one thing that was goofy, and it kind of just looked goofy. You know,
Yeah.
it didn't play off as well as some of the other stuff. Because it reminded me of something you'd see in like an early 2000s like B movie or something. You know, just the woo, like flying back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene was great though, and shooting the guy in the knees, and then and put him on the ground, and then he just blows the place up, and he does the little weird tricks on his horse, and him and Broomhilda ride off.
That was weird.
Him spinning in a circle was fine, but then it just went one scene a little more where he's like having the horse like walking. I'm like, what is going on here? I don't know if that was an homage to like some weird the way they would do old westerns where they would show a lot of that kind of stuff, but.
Yeah, I feel like it was a reference to like Will Rogers or Roy Rogers like back in the day, because they would do that. So,
Uh,
but no, overall,
you want to
really good
wrap
movie.
it up, Sterling?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah,
Matt, didn't you have some nitpicks, or did you throw them all out there?
Well, my main nitpick was I just didn't understand what the big deal was with them having to come up with this crazy plan just to buy Broomhilda.
Okay.
Other than that, it's one of those movies there's if I'm more bored in a movie, it's easier for me to find nitpicks. This is one of those movies I was so entertained and into it that I just didn't, nothing stood out to me. I'm sure if I watched it again, I could get into it. But otherwise, I mean, overall, it's like a lot of the little stuff. I think what you said about why did the servant like just know everything so quick. There's a couple of things like that, but it worked.
I did have one more. When he's the big scene happens when Christoph Waltz shoots Leo, and they have the shoot off, and he's killing everybody. I thought it was a little over the top where people just kept on filing in with guns, and he kept on shooting them, and they just kept on filing in. I'm like, where was this? Yeah, I was like, where did this little army come from? Like, they were just waiting for something to happen. Like, I'm like, because they only show like 4 or 5, 6 maybe at tops, people with them at any given time to guard the slaves. So I was like, where are these 30, 40 people coming from? Like, what is going on? Like, I was like getting not annoyed, but like, this is kind of over the top. Like, I guess a nitpick, but I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
Yeah, I did.
It definitely reminded me of Kill Bill a little bit. The last scene in Kill Bill.
Yeah,
all the 88 assassins come in.
I thought that. Yeah, I thought that it was kind of crazy, but that scene was so ridiculous, and so I just kind of accepted all of the aspects of it, including the crazy amount of people. Yeah, that were all showing up armed and ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Well, I feel like maybe we should talk a little bit about the last scene between Dr. Schultz and Leo's character.
Yes, yeah. I was about to bring that up because I have a couple cherry picks that I want to mention.
What is that a positive one instead of a nitpick?
It's like a positive. Me picking out a real great moment.
I like that. I like that terminology.
I love it.
I
Papa's back, baby.
Papa cherry. No, that's what I wanted to mention about that scene, and I know we can talk more about it. Is I don't remember the phrase now, but he says the German phrase. He says, that usually means, until we meet again, but I have no intention of seeing you again. It did get me a little bit of a strike to the chest when Django goes and gets the free papers for Broomhilda out of his pocket, and he says those words to Schultz.
Yeah,
that got me. But anyway,
That was good.
well, no, that was great, and it was definitely sad watching him die. My reaction was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what? He just dies like that? Like a
Yeah.
great character like that?" But it was realistic as far as like, yeah, he was toast after he killed him.
And
Because the
it
guy
was
had a
great that he
double
just
barrel shotgun.
it was great that he just was like, I couldn't resist.
It
Was just great. It was a great ending. Yeah.
Did the gun only have one bullet? I forgot. Is that kind of what they insinuated, that when he pulls it out?
It seems like it. Yeah, it seems like it did.
Okay, because I thought it was weird that he's like, he turns around and it's like all dramatic. I had to do it, couldn't resist, and I'm like, oh man, he couldn't shoot the other guy, and we couldn't have like a really happy ending,
Yeah.
But it was funny. It was kind of worth it because he's like, I couldn't resist, and then boom, and then he goes over and then slaughters everybody else until he gets trapped. But
yeah, which I assumed he was gonna leave, but Leo's character just kept pushing the fact that he was trying to like make a power move and make him shake his hand, and
yeah,
that's what put Schultz over the edge of like, you know what, fuck this guy.
yeah.
He's going for a handshake. I'm gonna do my handshake trick. Instead of a buzzer, it's gonna be a freaking gun that comes out and kills him.
Yeah, the buzzer. Batman
awesome.
buzz.
And I was gonna say his character. All the whole movie, I had a feeling that his character was gonna die. But as the movie kept going, I was like, well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't make an assumption because it just felt like I was like, I like this character a lot, and I just have a feeling. I kept thinking it was gonna happen. So when it finally got up and we're at just the tail end of getting this deal done, and then he died, it was right when I was starting to go, oh, I guess I shouldn't worry about it. And then he gets killed. I was like, but so I was just, he was such a great character. It makes me want to watch Inglourious Bastards now because I know he got nominated for his performance in that movie. So
yeah, we gotta watch that.
Yeah, when they're starting to walk away, I'm like, he's gonna get shot now because the guy with the gun. Like, I'm like, I thought he's gonna get ordered to get shot in the back. Like, because this movie has you on your toes. That's another positive thing. Like, it kept on like, what's gonna happen? Oh, that's gonna happen now. You like start assuming things.
Yeah.
So I really like that part. Like, oh, is this gonna happen now or later? And I really like that.
It really keeps you guessing about how things are going to go. Like, even when he just shoots the sheriff and you're like, what the hell? Or like a lot of things like that happen in the movie where it's like where they get found out or whatever. You never quite know what's going to happen, but it's always very believable. It's like there's twists in the movie that kind of happen, but never in a way that's like doesn't make sense. It's always stuff that makes sense for the characters to be doing. So
yeah. Well, cool. That's all I got as far as my my review.
Yeah.
We can finish it
all
up.
Right.
I'll go. So again, maybe kind of reiterating a little bit of what we've already said. This movie is the full package. It does so many things very well, and it balances kind of goofiness with seriousness, and the writing again is solid. It keeps you engaged, even in a 3-hour movie, which is very impressive. And the chemistry between Jamie Foxx's character Django and Dr. Schultz, Christoph Waltz, is just, it carries the movie in a lot of ways. And then of course when you get to Candyland with Leo's character, just he plays such a vile scoundrel, and he does it pretty flawlessly. And yeah, I think obviously this is not a movie for everyone. This is definitely a very violent, at times very hard to watch movie with some pretty intense scenes. And I think at sometimes it might go a little too far, but I appreciate movies that take risks like that. And I think as a film fan, this is a must watch. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, like I said, I didn't love it, but I do agree that from what the movies I've seen, and I have seen Inglourious Bastards, I thought that was my favorite. This was a little bit better because like Matt said earlier, that overall it hit all the points you want a movie to hit, and it did them well. And especially the acting, like the acting with yes, the writing helps, but when you got some Academy Award winners in there, throwing their game around, like it really helps. And this movie, it really had the chops going for it, and I think that really kind of helped the movie a lot because, like I said, there were some times where I was kind of a little bored, but I was still engaged because I'm like, where's the story going? Like, how does it get to the point where that I excuse me, that I know about at the end? You know, like I was like, where? How does it get to that point, and then how does it resolve itself? So I love how this movie kept me on my toes and what kept me engaged. And like I said, we kept on saying the whole time, superb acting, and I would definitely recommend it. And I really enjoyed watching this. And Matt, great pick. Like I thank you for this. I really enjoyed it.
Well, hey, I mean, I got to thank myself for this pick because I enjoyed it too. No, I think you guys kind of summed it up. I don't know if there's any more to add to it. This was just one of those movies that it's hard to really complain about or nitpick. Like it's sort of like Knives Out in the sense of, I mean, in a totally different kind of way, but it's just well-rounded. Great acting, great writing, great pacing, good editing, great music. Like everything's good. And it's just a really enjoyable film. And I think the mesh of like, it had me laughing out loud several times in the movie. It had me, on the edge of my seat, tensing up. It had emotional moments. It made me uncomfortable at times. I mean, it's a movie that if you can do all those things to me in one movie without it being all over the place, I gotta give hats off. So, Now we definitely got to watch, there's a few Tarantino movies I got to watch and see where I can rank this. But so far, it's number one for me. So I would recommend everyone watch it and check it out. So Trey, you want to close this out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't help but mention the little rivalry
Oh my
beef we
God.
got going on in the comments. Woo! I mean, come on, ABIJ. And nostalgia is real. I mean, come on, guys. Let's be friends in the comment section, or keep us entertained.
Well,
I mean, come on. I love it.
I think it was a resolve, but just for anybody watching, and of course, shout out to Abby J.
Oh, okay.
I got corrected in the comments. It was not, but the I don't like the passive aggressive comment. It says, how do you spell Abigail? Think about it. What is the beginning? Cutting out Gail. It's Abby. Get it right. You don't spell ABI like Abby or Abby. Come on. I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to know that? I mean, what you say that as if Abigail is in the name. I don't see Abigail. She's like, oh, how do you think about it? How do you spell Abigail? It's like, I can't read Abigail. I don't see it on the name tag. Okay, so okay, fine, but you know what? Fair enough, Abby. There's a little bit of a thing, and then nostalgia is real. Our first and once a homie, always a homie. It's all good, guys. I guess some people just want to be heard, I guess. Now, I don't know if that was passive aggressive or if he meant it. And then said good for, and he specifically spelled out ABIJ for getting the shout out. But it sounds like they need to figure their name out, though. So we'll see how it progresses from there. But, we only promote on Film Schmucks peace, love, or entertainment. So, hey, do whatever you want, as long as we're having a good time, So.
Oh, man.
Right.
Keep them coming. We love the comments.
Yeah.
And, subscribe. Follow us. Let's keep this ball rolling. And if you love watching movies, keep on watching because we love it. And as
subscribe.
We'll see you next time on the Film Schmucks. We said that already, Sterling. Come on now. See you guys.
Got it.